Hi, Dave Taylor again, coming to you in our continuing series of business and financial management tips. What I'd like to talk about now is cost of goods sold. In a previous session, we talked about the different types of sales you can have and where to get the numbers. Here, I'd like to talk about what is in the cost of goods sold, because this is where the biggest mistakes I see when I go in and look at individual income statements is that things are in here that shouldn't be in here or should be in here. This is called cost of goods sold in an HVAC business. Sometimes you might see it as COGS. Sometimes you might see it as cost of services. You don't have any goods that you sell because we have inventory. We have equipment and parts and things like that. But if it's an accounting firm or an engineering firm, an architectural firm, they just have services. So sometimes you might see it as cost of services. Now, what type of things do we see here? Anybody?
About the actual equipment.
Okay, that's an easy one, right? Equipment. It could be your parts, it could be your furnaces and air conditioners, it could be a lot of different things. What's another one?
Like the tech labor.
Okay, and that's the labor that you pay your guys. Think of it this way. What's in cost of goods sold is there because you got the job and only because you got the job. Or another analogy might be what you put in your estimate. When you're going around and surveying the site, what items do you put down? Those are all the things that are a cost of goods sold. So, your labor, what you pay the guy, right? You know, your 20 bucks an hour you pay for an installer. But isn't there more labor associated with that? There is, right? What you pay a guy for, or what you pay as a business owner for FICA, for unemployment, for workman's comp, things like that. So it's labor and the overhead burden associated with that labor. All those things go in the cost of goods sold. What are some other things in your estimate? Or what are some other things that are there because you got the job?
What about all the materials like the sheet metal and the electrical wire and stuff like that?
Okay, so that's part of equipment and materials, but it could be all the accessories that you have, the thermostats, the sheet metal, the whips, things like that. These different things, and this one right here, this labor, I would say this is the biggest mistake that I see on income statements. Because the bookkeeper or the accountant is making up these income statements and they don't know where to put the labor. To them, if they do a fast food restaurant, all the labor is under overhead because they have to have people to cook the hamburgers and the french fries, even if you don't have any sales. But in our business, the labor for the people installing the stuff are in the cost of goods sold. A lot of times I see that the labor is not there if I look at an income statement, but I see this big chunk under overhead, and that's where they have the field labor, and that's a mistake. And that affects your percentages, and that affects how you price the jobs. So what are some of the other things in cost of goods sold?
What if I have to pull a permit?
Okay, permit should be there too, right? Because that's going to be on your job cost sheet, and you have to pull a permit if you get the job, right? So what are some other things?
What about like the training time for my field guys for their labor?
That's a good point. Training is something you should budget for. If you pay your guys for training, I would put that under overhead, because it's not something you do only if you got the job. You don't put down training expense in your job estimate when you go around and look at the site. What else?
What about the sales guy? Does his labor go in there? His commission for that?
Well, that's a good point. If you pay your salesman just a salary, his salary would go under overhead. You don't put down a small amount as a salesperson to do the estimate. Now his sales incentive, if you pay him 2 or 3 or 5% if he gets the job, that should go under cost of goods sold. So what else is here? Let me put down incentive. If you pay your guys a spiff to put in a job, that would go under incentive. What else would go under cost of goods sold?
What if I have to go back on callbacks, like for warranty and stuff? Does that go in there, or is that?
Sure. If you didn't sell the job for warranty, let's be specific here, warranty expenses are if the part breaks down. You as the installer have to cover the first year. You have to have a little bit under your cost of goods sold to maybe send the guy back 1 out of 10 jobs. If it's a callback, that's when the service tech did something wrong. And you got to send the service tech back and you got to pay him to correct the problem. So yes, warranty and callbacks. They're here because you got the job and only because you got the job. Now, how do you calculate these things? Well, sometimes warranty expenses, usually a good number, are about 3% of your total costs or 2% of sales. Some people say $20 a ton if they're air conditioning, or so much per BTU. So that's kind of an art instead of a science. But they would go into cost of goods sold. What else?
What if I subcontract electrical install or something like that to another trade as part of my job?
So a subcontractor, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, sub should go underneath here. Anything else?
Any other people? Like if I have a project manager on a commercial job, or my dispatcher, secretary, any of those things?
No, I would put that under overhead. You remember, only because you got the job. If you as an owner go out and put those things in, that's what happens in a lot of small businesses. You put in there what your hourly time is, and those go into cost of sales. If you have that under overhead because you take a draw or you take when there's profit, then you're skewing the cost, those percentages that you need to calculate the job. So if you as the owner are doing this, or the project manager is actually working on site, turning wrenches, then you would put his costs in here. Anything else? We're getting down to the nitty gritty, but these are good topics.
Well, I'm sure my insurance and stuff like that goes under overhead, but what if I have to get like a special rider on my insurance for a project for some reason or something like that?
Maybe a job where you have to guarantee, you may put in extra service or extra warranty. Yeah, that would go under cost of goods sales too, because it's there because you got the job and only because you got the job. Well, that's pretty much it. But think of it this way. Things under cost of goods sold are A, because I got the job and only because I got the job, or B, it's what I put into my estimate. So you have all these things in the right spots, you get the right percentages for cost of goods sold, and overhead, and profit, and you'll be able to price your jobs correctly.